Sandy Carlson, who created tonight's program and brought poets together from across the state to read their poetry tonight. So we have some published poets, and we have some poets who are new to the game who would just like to share their poetry with one another in a nice, enveloping, wonderful, safe space. So I would like to introduce to you our poet laureate, Sandy Carlson. Thanks for that.
All right, so welcome everybody to Woodbury Public Library, to our amazing gallery. It's really nice to have people from across the state, and we mean that quite literally. Simsbury, Harwinton, Haddam, my goodness, we've got the cross-country trip accomplished, and our loyal local fans. So it's really great to have a nice group of people here tonight. We've got 3 featured poets, and we've got the sign up for the folks who are interested in sharing their poetry after. So we'll get started. Our first poet is a Woodbury resident, Lynn Northrup. She's the author of the fantasy adventure novel Leela and the Forest of Light, which is on the back table there. It is based on Native American wisdom teachings and the path of the heart. Leela, the young heroine, is on a planet-saving mission with the help of her animal allies. Lynn is working on a new book titled Dear Humans of the Earth, A Message from Gaia, which she hopes will challenge and inspire us to be earthwise human. And while I did just read that off the page, I have also read Leela and the Forest of Light, and it is gripping. It was one of those weekends I didn't do my chores. I just kept reading the book. So only pick it up when the house is clean, or you're not too worried about it, and enjoy Lynn's book. It's amazing, and welcome, Lynn. Thank you for sharing your poetry with us.
Thank you, it's great to be here, but I'm going to make a confession. I really didn't start writing until much later in life, like in my 60s.
That's all right.
And I didn't start writing poetry too much later than that. So I have on my computer 16 files called Hope. Hope 1, 2, 3, which are full of all sorts of rough drafts, and perhaps with the hope that somehow they might actually come out into the world one day. So I'm going to start with a disclaimer. Okay. I'm a rough draft. I like the sound of that. Rough is edgy, cracked, parts missing, unfinished, like me. But there's hope in rough. A promise, a declaration of more to come, more to be done, more to be found. So I say, let rough drafts be rough. Don't force an ending that isn't ready. Just smile and keep writing to be continued. Okay. So that's my start off, being a late bloomer in writing in life. I hope that gives people hope. Now, one of the things when I'm teaching creative writing workshop, sometimes I like to just put out something like little phrases like maybe if, or what if. I mean, think about that if we started the morning. Maybe if might happen, or what if. So it's a great way to start something, and all of a sudden, all sorts of ideas start coming after those. So this is my maybe if poem that I wrote. Maybe if we write poems, they'll become parachutes of food for starving souls standing in the cold, hungry for hope. Maybe if we write poems, those who have lost hope will find their voice, will hold hands instead of guns. Maybe if we write poems, politicians in the hollow halls of Congress will see through their relentless rhetoric and pass poems into law. Maybe if we write poems, the elephants walking across the drought-stricken savannah will hear us walking with them instead of turning on faucets in air-conditioned homes, separate and alone. Maybe if we write poems, the trees will grow faster, the forest thicker. Every poem a new sapling, every tree an ode, a sonnet, a prayer. Maybe the power of our words, the power of our hearts will whisper through the forests, flow through the rivers, fly with the eagles, mend the broken places. Maybe if we write poems, sustainable living, sustainable loving will be the new mantra, the new anthem. Maybe a giant sequoia will be the poet laureate for Mother Earth, and we will come to know our whole planet is a poem. Okay. Now this one, sometimes in my classes, workshops, we like to do I am poems. So I work with this group of wonderful women writers at the Senior Center who definitely like to push back conventional thinking and stir the pot. So one day I said to them, well, let's write a I am poem and put our actual age. And let's just see what comes out about our age on this particular day. So this is my I am poem. I am 79. I'm practicing to be an elder, but I don't think I'm improving. There are rules for these things, and rules and I don't seem to get along very well. There are adjectives, verbs, adverbs that describe elders. I can't seem to find my category. I tried to look wise one day, like a sage who knows an answer, but as soon as I opened my mouth, life sent me another question, and I was off to the chase. So I'm giving it up, being an elder. Perhaps when I'm 96, I'll know how to do it. But for now, I choose wonder over wisdom, questions over answers, discovery over despair, possibilities over platitudes. I choose the call of the wind, the soft moss by the river, the moon-silvered sky, the promise of a poem. I choose to dance with dreamers who move the world forward and never ask my age. And then finally this one. I had a poem that's the preface of my novel, but after I finished Leela in the Forest of Light, and it is this heroine, as I said, she's got to go against the dark forces. She's young, so I painted her as a forerunner. And in fact, Fox tells her, when the earth is out of balance, the children of earth and sky come forward to change things. You, Leela, are a child of the new earth. So she has to face the dark forces that want to keep control of the planet the way it is. And she has to follow with lightning intuition the wisdom of her heart, even in very tough situations. So I thought this poem, as it came out after the book came out, kind of fits. Like, what if we woke up one morning and we were all downloaded with the love gene, with a love vibration? What would it look like? What would happen? So this is called When Love Came. When love came, there was a great wind. The trees bent to the ground but did not break. The water rose but did not flood or flow over the banks or flood the land. When love came, the birds flew over the towns, over the cities and fields, as heralds of the coming age. The deer, lion, and caribou walked together down quiet streets. Polar bears in the Arctic, tigers in the jungle, dolphins in the sea heard the call of the elephants, the call of the hawk, the call love makes at the birth of a new day. When love came, the people rubbed the dust from their eyes, stepped out into the clear air, into an unfamiliar landscape. Their steps hesitant, barely touching the ground. The heavy coat of history fell from their shoulders. Love lifted them up and clothed them in a garment of grace. The people cried and held each other, looked into each other's eyes, looked into the eyes of the snow leopard, looked into the eyes of the gray wolf, the blue whale, looked at the giant redwoods, the fields of flowering jasmine, and felt their truth. When love came, it cleansed the earth until every form, every color shimmered with a light that tilted the axis, a light that sang the song of the universe, a light that sang the song of love. The people, the forests, the rivers, the oceans, the animals became one heart beating on the day love came. And that was the beginning of the new earth.
Amazing. Our scrolling billboard, by the way, we are, just to call attention to April 29th here at the library. We're having a big day of poetry. Antoinette Brimbell, the state's Connecticut Poet Laureate, she will be here for our panel discussions and other activities. So I hear you guys are on vacation next week, you guys from Haddam Butt that week. But if, on the 29th, if you feel like coming out to Woodbury, you're more than welcome, and it's going to be an amazing day. So thank you very much, Lynn. That was inspiring. Our next poet is from Simsbury. Deborah Nash Ott is originally from Rochester, New York, but she's lived and worked abroad for many, many years. And several of her memoirs have appeared in memoirist.org. In 2021, she co-published Twin Soul, a collection of poems she wrote with Welsh poet Heather Gatley. She loves writing, life, and firmly believes in poet Wendy Vitalock's manifesto, "Everybody's got their own egg to hatch." So welcome, Deb. Thank you for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, and I want to thank Sandy Carlson for being so gracious and including a rogue Simsburyite coming down here. And she's included me several times, so I appreciate you. Appreciate Woodbury Public Library. Fabulous what you have here. A lot of energy here. So thank you. I'm reading one piece from Twin Soul, and then I'll move on to some new work. So a couple of nature poems coming up here. This is called Sacred Ground. I've seen the heron who lives by my house swoop over the marshes in a morning fog, land in a muddy cornstalk fields, silent and alert like a great gray god. The fine pointed beak, the yellow ringed eyes, the slender dangling crest, the seductive curve, a stillness divine, more worldly and yet more blessed. I searched for him once in a low green pond, surprised him, and he took instant flight, wings the color of putty pounded above, then a smudge against the sky. I never returned to the pond after that. Was I seeking the one in a holy place? It is the question that Lowell once posed. When will we see him face to face? Another nature poem coming from Connecticut. We're all deeply involved in the woods, and being in them and among them, it informs who we are, I think, as New Englanders.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Deb. Could you just project a little bit
Sure.
more? Would that be okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Sorry.
You don't need, yeah. I won't do the microphone thing. Okay, this is called About Walking in the Woods. It is a natural desire to want to wander, perhaps to ponder that long-lost feeling of being a part of things. The fungus on the side of the fallen oak is a rainbow of mineral shades with lacy lip like foot of snail. We look and we soak it in, learn how to see the small living world. Maybe a pine branch muscles its way through a thicket of bittersweet, Colored scents, the greens, the ripe red berries, husk of yellow. It's like a human life, isn't it? This nimble, tumble brambles of growth, messy but beautiful. What compels us might be the sense that souls grow underground, that tree roots conversing form a silent network. Then we might listen and stop walking. None of us as poets, as human beings, are not moved by the horrific proliferation of guns here in the United States. And when a racist opened up his gun in a parking lot at Tops in Buffalo, New York, that hit home. I'm from Rochester, New York, and so I needed to speak for my upstate people. This is called mental health in Buffalo. He described stepping over bodies as he was led from the freezer, what they wore, the colored clothing, the strides he'd managed, careful not to trample a digit. He was cold and his eyes were downcast, mind riddled by the muffled shots. He was stuck in the cooler. She listened later, an inherited chill, the splay of a Jim's Ribs t-shirt, the tie-dyed yoga pants, witnessed all with him, stomach coiled and ready to spring. I can never unsee that, he said. I can never unhear that, she thought. On that theme of disenfranchised young people, this happened right on my street, and it turned into a poem rather naturally. As I thought about Icarus and his failing to fly in wings that were made from wax and feathers. This is called Rewind. A crumpled tissue and a cigarette butt, remnants from the morning incident, 3 cop cars and a strapping teen with golden hair led away from the old red house. In the weed-lined driveway, the mother dabbed her eyes. Neighbors sized up the scene, made up stories. He plays football, got in trouble, went too far. But we, the old sinners, gave up our right to judge years ago. This boy from a forgotten town merely teases our tired imagination. Let him go. Let him rise to the heavens on wings like Icarus. No, he didn't fuck up. This was all a terrible mistake. She is inside on the phone with her ex, and he never flew too close to the sun. And I'll finish with a poem about a word that I loved. And poets love to play with words, but this one I came across. It is a Japanese word, sashiko, and it is the way people mend in Japan to make the material clothing last longer, but it's also an art. Sashiko. Hearts worn by sorrow also need mending. The needle will pierce the cloth of pain. The life we know is always upending and must be healed through those scars will remain. Repairs of this kind demand real trust in one who can fix with deft, gentle hands an organ so vital, so precious, and must heed the soul's tender commands. That to be human is to be open to hurt. To care for another can lead to an ache of such magnitude that only time will convert from sadness to love for love's sake. Keep nimble with fingers ready to sew. Together, a threadbare life, then let go. Thank you.
Thanks, Deb. You know, the healing power of nature and the way we make sense of the incomprehensible by returning to nature really comes through in what you write. Kindred spirits here, for sure. Jack Sheedy of Harwinton. He has been honored by the Society of Professional Journalists and the New England Newspaper and Press Association for his reporting over the years. His articles have appeared in numerous regional and state publications and have been syndicated on Catholic News Service. He's also an award-winning correspondent for the Catholic Transcript, the magazine of the Archdiocese of Hartford, for which he still writes regularly, and he's also a publicist for Torrington's Nutmeg Ballet Conservatory. In 2000, his play Guardrail Nikes was a winner in the Connecticut One Act Play Festival competition, And his collections include the poetry chapbook, The Wanting Place, his memoir of his sister, Sting of the Heat Bug, and a collection of personal essays titled Magical Acts in 2 Suitcases. Jack's got another work in the works, so more to come from Jack Sheedy, but right now, please welcome Jack. Thank you.
Woo! Well, thank you. That's pretty impressive. I didn't know I did all those things. Welcome. I'm glad people showed up.
Yeah.
Thank you, Marla, for organizing this or hosting it, and thank you, Sandy, for putting it all together.
My pleasure.
So I wrote a chapbook called The Wanting Place. I didn't know what to call it, but there's a poem in here called that, so that's what I called it. And it's about grief. It's about the process of getting past a loss. But there's humor in here. I think you'll agree. But my first poem in the book is the last poem that I wrote for the book, because I wanted to give you a sort of an overview of what the book deals with. So this was called Moments. Decades ago, your personal ad intrigued me. A nice woman looking for a man of integrity and intellect must like cats. I figured I qualified under the cats clause. We met in a clean, well-lighted place, sized each other up, did dinner, movie, nightcap, made a second date, bought a house. We did the writing life, features, essays, poetry. We wrote books, enjoyed local fame. We had our moments, laughing at old Peter Sellers movies, holding hands in Elizabeth Park, teary-eyed at Christmas lights in Rockefeller Center. Then you got sick. Surgeries, hospital bed, oxygen, walker, pain pills. We had 911 on speed dial. 911 had us on caller ID. Your pain robbed us of sleep and our sense of humor. You felt abandoned. I felt useless, unable to save you. But we did have our moments. These I will keep. And this one is some humor and some pathos and some magical realism in here. It's an imaginary meeting with my wife who has passed away. And it's called As She Was Passing. She walked in unexpectedly, 18 months after she died. I was emptying wastebaskets, noticing all the used tissues, remnants of a lingering cold I just can't seem to shake. "You're doing that wrong," she said. And that's how I knew it was Jean. I turned to face her. Sure enough, she wore that t-shirt, the one advertising books you don't need in a place you can't find. "You died in that shirt," I said. "I never died," she said. "Why are you here?" "I'm cleaning," I said. "Girlfriend already?" she said. "It figures." "Why are you starting in on me?" No girlfriend, but why do you care?" "Men, they can't get by on their own." "I'm getting by," I said. There was a pause. "Are you?" I asked. She cleared her throat. That same sound that irritated me for 27 years. "How are the kids?" she said, changing the subject. "They're fine." Couldn't think what to say next. "I published your book," I finally told her. "You what?" It wasn't finished." Well, by now the afternoon was ruined. So I said, "Gee, I'm sorry, Jean. I guess I should have waited." "Where is it?" she demanded. I handed her a copy. "Who did the cover art?" she asked. Do you like it? I said. Yeah, it looks familiar. You painted it, he said. Oh. She looked out the window. I just fixed punctuation, I said. She turned pages slowly. She sniffed but said nothing. You kept my title, she finally said. Close but not touching, I said. It's what you wanted. She sat in her recliner. Our cat, Bindi, sniffed her leg. I'll brew some Earl Grey, I said. Your tea bags are old, but I can't stay, she said. I was just passing. She walked out the door, then turned. Why did you publish it? She asked. I don't want you to be forgotten, I said. Then I gave her a hug, a kiss on the cheek. My life has changed, I said. It's good to see you, but next time, please call first. This next one was published in Mad River Anthology in 2018. That's going on tonight too. The Mad River Anthology, the festival in Winston. I was a guest at that 2 years in a row, 2018, 2019. I was invited for tonight, but I said, got something going already, I can't. So this is called, this is based on a dream that I really did have. And the description of the dream is pretty accurate. So this is called Butterflies. 1 year later, your posthumous book at my bedside, finally I dream of you. Not the woman I met 30 years ago, unstoppable, taunting me to keep up. Not the woman of 20 years ago, when you wrote features, taught poetry to kids, essay writing to adults. And not the woman of 10 years ago, writing that first book, feeling a little joint pain, but laughing through it all. In my dream, you were the frail woman I lost. The woman who ached all over, needed my arm to lean on. Let me walk to the hilltop, you said. You wanted to walk those 100 steps, wanted to reach that green meadow, glimpse a deer, fruit trees, butterflies, feel the sun of a bright morning. I offered my arm. I can do this, you said, and walked out of sight to the hilltop. You did it without oxygen, without walker, without cane, without me. It's beautiful, I heard you say. There are butterflies. There's two more. This tells a little bit about the night that I learned that she had passed away in the hospital. It's called To Bring You Chapstick. The jangling telephone told the story even before I answered it. No good news comes at midnight. The ride to Hartford with your son, both of us bleary from the bar, was a neon blur all the way to Woodland Street. You go in first, he said, and stood by the nurse's station. I almost raised an arm to knock on your door. The ceiling light was dim, barely outlining your folded clothes on the windowsill, t-shirt, black slacks, LLB, and loafers, and you. Your head to one side facing me. Eyes closed like sleep, lips parted like speaking, leaving me to guess the words. You were not here, or here you are. Accusing or welcoming, I could not tell. To stay sane, I chose welcoming. Hadn't I been with you all day, from 4 in the morning until 5:30 at night? I only had gone home to sleep and bring you chapstick. Do you begrudge me a drink with your son? We only met to talk of you, to wonder how to care for you. How could we have known? As alcohol coursed in our veins, a blood clot was breaking free in yours. Now, here you are, 3 hours dead, face relaxed and growing pale, lying just off center in the bed. There is room for me, let me in. And I'll close with the title poem, The Wanting Place. And there are two voices. This will be difficult to do because there are two voices and they alternate very rapidly. And it's written in iambic pentameter, and every line alternates. The first line is Jean's, the second line is mine. It's an imaginary conversation about talking with my wife about how can I get a date with someone, you know. So it's the wanting place. And the first line is Jean's. And then I'll try to sell this poem. You're asking me? How do I know you'll listen? Damn it, Jean. I'm asking your advice. Why ask me now? I died 2 years ago. I don't know where to turn for dating help. The one you mentioned, is she right for you? That's why I'm asking. I don't really know. You don't know much about her. That's not good. All right, I'll simply cross her off the list. A list? Of course, you always kept great lists, for which you mocked me. Here, check number 2. This number 2, you like this woman. Why? She's fun, creative, always on the go. I see. That's great, but wasn't I like that? And didn't I fall for you because of it? I see. So, did she fall for you? I'm only asking. I don't know, but we're friends. I just don't know. All right, who's next? Show me your number 3. This one's a lot of fun. She makes me laugh. Oh my God, no. She's not your type at all. I know that. She's just on the list. I have to say, Jack, I just have to say. Oh, here it comes. I should have known. A lecture. I have to say, I should have stuck around. It shook me when you died. I'm all messed up. I think you were not ready when I died. We're never ready. Living is all we know. I should have stayed. I should have stayed for you. That's very kind. I can't get used to that. Maybe because I haven't shown much kindness. At first you did. Your kindness died before you. You know my sickness killed my kindness, don't you? I've always known that, Jean. Of course I know. I was a bitch. My pain just overwhelmed me. I think you know I know that and forgive you. These other women, will their kindness last? How can we know? Will my own kindness last? Don't make me cry, Jack. I don't have a Kleenex. No Kleenex for the dead? That's so unfair. You still can make me laugh. I should have stayed. I hear your laughter in these other women. You only see them from a wanting place. A wanting place. You still can turn a phrase. But so can you, Jack. Isn't this your poem? It sort of is, but isn't it yours too? I think it helps you that you think it is. I think it does. But Jean, I need a partner. She will appear. These women are for practice. I'll let them know that. They will be delighted. Shut up and listen. Don't expect so much. Do I expect, or do I only wish? No woman wants a man who needs too much. No woman needs a man who wants too much. Slow down a bit. You'll know her when you see her. We did it right. You'll do it right again. And I did. A month ago tonight, I married number 2.
This first poem, first of all, I've been teaching piano for many years, and in 2021, I shut down my main studio in Sandy Carlson, which was really difficult to do. So this first poem is about that process of taking everything down, putting everything away, and remembering everything that happened in that place. It's called The Sorting. I sit on the floor of my studio at the feet of the old piano, surrounded by a forest of books and papers. games for teaching, precarious stacks and piles. What do I keep from 36 years of listening, pulling on door after door, finally finding the one that opens a child's heart and mind, flooding her with light? I'll keep the patience they gave me as I listened to the 900th rendition of Pure Elise, as I learned to treasure each note and stumbled phrase, celebrate each measure claimed, receive the gift of joy as the piece was played in its entirety, the player alive with emotion and confidence, a new birthing of being and Beethoven. I'll keep their insistence that I accept them all as they are, not bend, twist, coerce, cajole them to my will, but see who they really are. The keen-eared ones who can play anything before I've uttered a demi-semiquaver. The dutiful ones revealing hidden genius if I remember to give them the slightest opening. The squirmy ones who must move their music. The jokey ones who get the humor of it, and the offbeat ones who might never hear that steady internal metronome, but who nevertheless play on with diligence and deep delight, sometimes for the rest of their lives. I stand and survey my accumulated leavings, worn out staves and tattered flashcards. These papers can go. I have enough to keep for a lifetime. Thank you. And I chose another poem that happens to also have to do with music, but it's a memory from when I was much younger, going to my piano lesson. It's called Becoming. On a virginal spring day, I walked down Hart Street toward my piano teacher's English tutor home, with Leroy Anderson's The First Day of Spring floating through my mind's ear, matching the day, as music often does. Its melody climbed up a small hill, lush with daffodils and hyacinths, note by note, until reaching the summit, then looked down over all of my 14 years. I breathed in newborn air, and it merged with a rogue energy rising in my body, unrecognizable, yet faintly familiar. Harmonic overtones enlivened the early green sprout unfurling in my belly. Vague stirrings, yearnings. I was different. I could finally admit I was metamorphosing into some new creature, and that was exciting and terrifying. As the music swelled up and down softly rounded verdant hills, I followed, choiceless. Beauty and music mingled with pain, everything so close, so present. I allowed myself to feel all of it. When I arrived at my piano teacher's house, my circumference wide as the orbiting moon, I wondered how I would fit inside the doorway.
This one's called The New Dawn. A baseball fan sits high in a silent ballpark, lost in sun's rays, streaking over outfield bleachers, shining through upper deck facade, once a defining trait of this stadium's predecessor, meditating on what opening day means. 30 teams, even in the standings, though not in talent, revenue, or cash to spend, begin the season, same as 100 before, with hopes of a league pennant, dreams of a World Series championship banner, visions of glory up center field, hoisted up center field flagpole next spring. He closes his eyes, basks in the dawn of a new season. I'll just do this one. It's an ekphrastic poem because the paintings that are on my right, up on the top. The Ornog chapter of the Connecticut Poetry Society does ekphrastic writing in the library on the first Saturday of every month.
At 1 o'clock.
At 1 o'clock. Yeah. So this one's called No Room for Gardens. No room for gardens in narrow alleyways around Cordoba, Spain means whitewashed buildings host not only guests, but geraniums too. Their terracotta pots nestled in metal loops, fastened haphazardly to walls. Green stems and leaves join bright red, pink, purple, and white flowers stretching up to the light. Follow cobbled paths to the square, to old Mesquita, now cathedral, rising high at alley's end between the blooming buildings. Its prayer tower summons you to come hither as the sun beckons the flowers to worship.
Well, the first one I was going to do this, I've been like poetry, like maybe in college and everything, and then it kind of went away. And then I think it was 2020, I came out with this one, and then the following year, of course, we all know what kind of crazy life that was. So this is the first one, Tree of Life. May have firm roots under the earth-rich soils, abundance of branches stretched beyond, almost touching the ocean blue sky. Firmly standing there each changing season, year after year, maintaining poise and strength. May your leaves and flowers be translucent of your inner core. Internal heart fires will not be afraid from the bitter elements, protected by the surrounding beauty of nature. So that's the first one. And then I'm a nurse and COVID hit, and I wrote this, and you can't see, but I kind of made it like, I'll read the part afterwards, but it says, anger exists upon my face, unable to breathe. Fear of the uncertainty, willing to fight. My body is now my weapon to endlessly protect, treating it like the temple it was created to be. And then it kind of brings up face, breathe, fear, fight, weapon, protect, be.
This poem is called Listo. Ready? Hip! Sunlight punches through clouds that wouldn't dare disturb this day. The Statue of Liberty gawks from her stage as I take mine, 35 feet above the rooftop below. Big smiles to bite back the fear. Chest out, shoulders back, head up, no leaning. Ready? Hip! The catcher's call carries me off the board. The white-hot grip tape welds my hands to the trapeze bar. My body balls up, desperate to gather every drop of potential waiting to be released. It's 3 years since we stood together on that wooden deck, and this same sunlight punched through clouds, daring them to disturb our day. Sharing vows, we swayed on waves too impatient for us to wrap it up and get to dancing. We declared to the universe that we'd not take half of joy or pain, and the patient universe shook its head. It's 6 months since the day we never got to hold our daughter. Tears welded my hand to yours, and her translucent fists balled up, desperately gathering every drop of potential that would never be released. 1 hour and 4 minutes of the comfort of strangers before she joins her stillborn brother in clouds of what-ifs and could-have-beens that no light can fight its way through. It's moments since I took my first step off that platform. For the first time in months, I am high enough to touch the hope that has eluded my fingertips. The dark thoughts that have clouded my ears for so long are shouted down by the catcher as he calls again, ready, hip! And I am an astronaut, untethered by earthly concerns. I am an eagle, my arms outstretched, feeling every draft of air that passes beneath. I am a superhero above all laws, including gravity. The catcher reaches out, hands clasp wrists like Roman soldiers meeting, and then I am released. I drift until I am cradled in the net's rough embrace, earthbound once more. But behind my smiling teeth, I hold a taste of hope like lemon candy, and I am ready for whatever the universe brings us next.
The first poem ever. Eons in the future, the invention of a fine-tipped pen. Eons after that, a word processing artificial intelligence. At no other time in history, a sketch created by ink-dipped fingernails, scratching a thin slab of wood. Before that, wavy lines swirling across a thin surface of sand on a flat sheet of metal. Before a product of patience and heartache, before feelings of lust sorted out and compared to feelings of love, the figure of a woman according to a man. a nudity made known to its equally naked creator, a consumer of fruit and flesh in a newly tangible world. First are the body parts, first are the leaves. Mind and memory make the model when all there is mode. Fire, the birthplace of ash and hard work, a chiseled tip that scrapes the following sunrise. He turns his back on her and commits himself to the resulting homage, an image remembered as a brand new space is cleared. Yes, he must call upon the gods to listen. Yes, he must be the only one who actually does. I'll do a little lighthearted one. The food experience. As the glass door opened, I noticed the lit face of a man standing behind a podium as if he was giving us a poetry reading. Upon approaching us with courtesy, he located a soft, shiny booth where my parents and I sat down. Out of nowhere, an ingratiating woman approached us with such enthusiasm, excitedly analyzing the choices of beers, which she had committed to memory, as my dad settled on something that was not excessively hoppy. I looked up from my menu and noticed how those dressed in similar attire exchange words and then walk in opposite directions, as a different one purposefully hurried past our table, a pitcher of ice water in his hand. Both my dad and I eventually decided on the brick-pressed chicken with broccoli rabe and fingerling potatoes. We handed our menus to our person and began to wait as I studied the elaborate mural located on the wall above the black double doors. The faint sound of frying pans dancing across sliding plates gave way to the waft of air that trailed our food as the double doors opened, as our dinner finally entered the patronized ambiance. I sliced the chicken with a knife that had a smooth wooden handle, and the well-spiced meat melted in my mouth. I curiously looked over at my dad as he touched the chicken with the tip of his fork. Just a little too salty, he said.
One leg at a time, peace is mine. With my shirt, I cover my chest, with a plate of righteousness covering my breast. Around my waist, I secure God's grace. With faith in his truth, I shall not be moved. Arrows of doubt are aimed after me. My defensive covering safeguards my belief. With my head covering, I protect my mind from lingering thoughts by the enemy's lies. I contend with your word, promises made to me, to cast down anything that exalts itself above the spirit within thee. Last but not least, I cover my feet. Standing firm in my principles, I walk in peace. This one is called Grand. A psalm's a day keeps the devil away. You always told me to read a scripture from the book of Psalms. I wasn't as close to Jesus then, so the words didn't really mean much to me. But I always felt something when I heard an old school song. Oh, how those hymnals would touch the depths of my soul. You would always sing one or two hymns, great is your faithfulness and how great thou art. Now every time I hear those tunes, I think of you, never really knowing the meaning of sea billows roll. But watching how faithful and loving you were, my heart aches at the thought of you not seeing the woman I grew to be. The Bible says those in Christ will live till eternity. So as the song says, it is well with my soul.
I have several poems, and they're relatively short. So don't tell me how long it will take to heal. I cannot wait for the weeks, months, and years. However, I know that my body, mind, and spirit can make it through today, moment by moment. Ode to an avocado. Oh, avocado, you seem so hard and brittle on the surface. You hide your tenderness. I know, dear, dear avocado, that inside that crusty surface, you are soft, yet firm. At the center of your being, an embryo lives, another possibility of another you. You are not a peach, or a plum, or a pomegranate. You are not for the timid consumer. You are not always ready. You choose the moment to gift yourself to us. And if we are forgetful, we forfeit the gift of your perfection. You are the sweetness that is the joy in my mouth, fruit of the gods we peasants consume with great gratitude. An early spring morning. This morning, the taste of Irish oatmeal, soft, firm nubs, mixed with creamy yogurt and crunchy apple, linger in my mouth as I watch the titmouse and junco at the bird feeder, and the trees in their soulful winter glory, moving to the music of the wind. The dead leaves clinging to the oak, unwilling to let go until spring comes and pushes them off the branch to make way for new life. The chimney smoke is intermittently wispy and billowing. The deck, pool, lawn, and railings are covered with a fresh dusting of snow. And now, a red-bellied woodpecker enjoys the deserted feeder, leaving it swinging as it takes flight. It's a gift to sit quietly and watch. I feel like Leo Leone's Frederick the Mouse. And if you're not familiar with Leo Leone's Frederick the Mouse, I'm happy to share it with you. This is my last one. This one I wrote in 2017, the original version, when Molly Kate and the young man Matt Simpson and I did a poetry here in this room, and it was inspired by Molly's painting called The Venerable Oak. I am old. Insects live in my crevices. A chipmunk family scampers on my limbs and hoards acorns in my hollowed trunk. And the robin family has come back again this year, making a nest in the crook of my arm. I watch now as this ancient body of mine becomes home to many.
Well, we're glad you made it for a nice finale to our evening. Thank you